a special Hammer update, not quite live and not quite from E3. I'm your host, the HammerReviewer, and I have some special E3 Zelda news. 2 days ago, Nintendo revealed the trailer as well as a title for the current Zelda game they're working on. It is entitled The Legend of Zelda: Skyward Sword. This footage was first released at E3. Boy, it's gonna suck like all the members of the current era of Zelda games, ain't it? Well, let's analyze this for a bit, shall we? They dazzle us with a bizarre fusion of Twilight Princess and Wind Waker style artwork, which doesn't make sense. It makes it look like it's a Paul Cézanne painting. But let's look at this focus of the preview, the actual gameplay, and it looks pretty bad. But then again, it's a Wii game, so all the controls are pretty bad. The trailer itself appears to be thus: a rundown of the previous Zelda games, and then bludgeoning us with new stuff. I see some fairly standard energies, Bokoblins, Dekus, Babas, Octoroks, and Goma, who's been the boss of the first temple since the first 3D game, Ocarina of Time. We see tired, cliched items, Master Sword, still looking very much like a sword, and not very much like a blue female. The bow, the ball, and the slingshot, and then two new items. The whip, making him Linkiana Jones again for the first time outside of Spirit Tracks, and an item-grabbing device called the Beetle, which makes me wonder if they paid either Ringo or Paul to do the part, because the other two guys are dead. Link then jumps off a cliff and is presumably hit by the title of the game, Skyward Sword. Which does not run off my tongue at all. It actually sounds pretty bad. I have three problems with this game. The first is that it's a Wii game, so the controls are pretty bad. It looks like it's a QuickTime event to deflect anything with your shield. So, if you're being cornered by an Octorok, it stinks to be you. Problem number two. It's not really introducing anything new. You're switching between two worlds, which has been done in every Zelda game since the third release, A Link to the Past, which is now a prequel to the other two, but I'm going to explain the timeline in a completely unrelated video. The third problem is that Link's right-handed. I trained myself to play Wii left-handed, so when this time came, and we had a Motion Plus game, which I was Link, he would be left-handed. It doesn't even look like I matter, and it's just right-handed anyway. That isn't good, people. The one promising thing about Skyward Sword is that there's not an assist character in sight, which means it's going back to games like the original Zelda, which means it's going to technically possibly fall after all the others, after Zelda 2, which is the last game chronologically. But again, I'm going to explain the timeline in better depth and in a different video. here's what I learned from E3, story-wise. Link lives on an island in the clouds called Skyloft, and one day he discovers a land below, and then it's overrun by monsters. So Link switches between these two worlds, which the one on the ground I'm presuming is Hyrule and Skyloft. Interestingly, some old gameplay mechanics are back, like the sword beams. By holding the Wiimote vertically and lowering it to a 9-degree angle, you can shoot sword beams again, which looks really like a pain to do, but at least we shoot lasers from our sword in the Middle Ages, because that makes perfect sense. The items are pinned to a radial menu, like Twilight Princess, which pissed me off to no end, but hopefully maybe I'll have the option of fixing that, because I don't like that mechanic. And the HUD can turn off in case you are easily distracted by different colors on your screen, although it's going to be kind of a pain because you're not going to be able to see how many hearts you have. But there won't be an arrow telling you which way to go, so I guess that's pretty good. Skyward Sword, size-wise, isn't as large as Twilight Princess, according to the creator, which means that I'm probably going to spend less time lost, which could be good, but there's also less emphasis on temples, which is a bad thing. Temples and dungeons are the main focus of the game. You're not supposed to just wander the overworld. I mean, you can, and it's a good thing that you can wander the overworld, but you should be able to go to the temples, and they should be a big part of the gameplay. I mean, that's the formula from the original Zelda game. That's what we grew up with playing. I mean, my first Zelda game was Ocarina of Time, and it was dungeon-oriented. I mean, I spent a decent amount of time in the overworld, but it was still dungeon-oriented, which bothers me. In other footage revealed at E3, we learned that Nintendo's ripping off Disney's Animal Kingdom theme park by having a large central tree at the center of the overworld in this game, which could either be plot-related, or it could just be a gigantic pain, meaning you have to go back to the center of the map. This means that it could be also related to Zelda 2 that way, or Phantom Hourglass, because that's what you have to do. You start in the middle, and after a certain amount of time, after you beat a temple or a dungeon or whatever, you have to go back there, which is going to be a pain. The graphics aren't that great, but they're not terrible either. I wanted a more realistic Zelda game, and I wanted one more realistic than Twilight Princess, with, I don't know, Link talking. But I didn't get that, and they gave me this, which I'm gonna get anyway, against my better judgment. Soundtrack for Skyward Sword will be fully orchestrated, first for Zelda games, which is pretty good, because they did that for Mario Galaxy 2, and it turned out to be an amazing game. So, other news. Link, the hero of Skyward Sword, has committed suicide by jumping off a cliff. He is mourned by his previous installment's ancestors, I don't know, because the timeline's confusing, and his grieving longtime girlfriend, Princess Zelda. We join them in mourning the loss of this beloved gaming icon. And Nintendo, meanwhile, just continues to beat his corpse until new games pop out of it. Interestingly, in a more serious note, this may be the last Zelda game for Wii, because they announced their new system, the Wii 2, at E3 as well. So, I don't know when it's coming out, but if this is the last Zelda game for the system, that means I'm going to have to get another Nintendo system soon, so I can get the new Zelda game, which is something I didn't do for Twilight Princess. This has been the HammerReviewer with a special update, reminding you not to buy this crappy Zelda game simply because it has The Legend of Zelda in the title. I hope this one doesn't suck as hard as Twilight Princess, but it could be a pretty good game too. It could be like Ocarina of Time and be a golden egg. And maybe my ass will sprout wings and fly me into space.